In this context, we will look into how cities, local actors can play a role in the implementation of preventive water management measures. I am very honored to present what I really think is a super panel of speakers this afternoon. So we have Margrethe Auken, a member of European Parliament from Denmark and belonging to the political group of the Greens. Margrethe is also shadow rapporteur for the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive recast. She will tell us more about her work in this area. We have Michelle Sponar. Michelle is Deputy Head of Unit in the Unit Environment and Clean Water Services at DG. For those that are not familiar with this acronym, Directorate General, like a department in the European Commission that deals with environmental issues. And then we have Adrian Michel, Head of Product Management and System Engineering Roofing at Sika. So representing industry. And then finally, last but not least, Johan Ringeling. Johan is a business strategist and innovation manager at Interpolis. Interpolis is an insurance company. He will tell us some very interesting innovation in this that are taking place in this space. So without further ado, I'd like to start our discussion. I would start with Michelle Sponar from European Commission. Michelle, you have been doing with the DG Environment and with your colleagues a lot of work in this area. DG Environment is very, very committed. We have had some of your colleagues also in the previous session this morning. Particular now, the focus today is water management. We have an important revision of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive that after 32 years, if I'm not wrong, is a very old revision, is actually due to be reviewed. And this process, the process is kind of, we are in the middle of a process. So my question to you is, why useful also to frame a bit the discussion for our colleagues and participants to this webinar. So why it is important, in your view, to combat the pollution from rainwater, addressing problems like runoff, like the stormwater overflow in the context of this increased urbanization, and how the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive aims or can help achieve these goals. So I leave you the floor, Michelle. Please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. Well, in fact, your question is quite essential for us. I mean, this directive, Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, was a key driver in the European Union to improve the quality of our water. In fact, when you go back 30 years ago and when you realize the progress done so far, it's really a concrete, tangible progress that we have done in better collecting and treating our urban wastewater. And I'm mentioning that because I think it's a collective achievement of the European Union. It's not the European Commission, it's not the Parliament, it's not the Union as such. It's all of us, starting from citizens paying their invoice, of water, where a part of this invoice are going to collection and treatment of wastewater, to local authorities, cities, regional authorities, national authorities, and the European Union as a whole. So I think we can be really collectively proud of this achievement. I'm always mentioning the example of those countries having joined the Union a little bit later. What they did in few years is exemplary, and indeed it was with the support of European funds, but it was really a good achievement. I'm saying that because now we arrive to a certain level where the normal wastewater of most of the cities in the European Union are well collected and well captured and treated. But then what remains is really new source of pollution like micropollutant and things which are not really tackled by the directive, and including rainwater. in a sense, it's a little bit sad and regrettable that we have invested so enormous amount of money, you know, to achieve this objective, and then suddenly you have a big rain in a city, and suddenly you have in 1 or 2 days after a rain episode a lot of pollution which is bypassing the wastewater treatment plants and going directly in the environment. So part of the efforts that we are doing every day are simply jeopardized by the fact that this rainwater is taking a lot of pollution back to the environment without any proper treatment. So that's why we you know, courageously or unconsciously, it's to be chosen. We have decided to try to tackle this issue in the revised directive, which is now in discussion in the Parliament and the Council. And in fact, what we try to do is really indeed to push the member states and their cities to try to define optimal solution at their level. It's clear that the solution for one city is different than for another city. There are some common things that could be done, and that is what we have included in the directive. But clearly, the optimal solution should be defined at local level. So this balance we have tried to find in the proposal, which is now in discussion.
Thank you very much, Michel. As far as we are concerned, was courageously. If there is any doubt in that respect. But thank you for this breaking the ice. I think it's good framework and background. I'd like to go to Mrs. Auken now. So we move from the European Commission that has proposed this revision to the European Parliament that will have to improve and express their opinion on this file. And my question for you, Mrs. Auken, is how can the Commission proposal, in your view, be improved in order to maximize the use of green infrastructure to reduce stormwater overflow and urban runoff? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, and thank you very much for this invitation. And just as said, unfortunately, I will not be able to stay the entire hour, only to 2:30, but we'll take it here. As we have also heard now from the Commission, stormwater overflow and urban runoff is a serious challenge that will only grow the next decades, with more people and more extreme rain events on the horizon. It's clear that one of the very promising ways to deal with this issue is by designing green and blue infrastructure in our cities. To the extent possible, we should always prioritize it over traditional gray solutions. The Commission's proposal for the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is addressing this to a certain degree, particularly in point 4C of Annex 5 on the content of the new wastewater management plans. It makes it clear that green infrastructure should be prioritized, if possible, whenever new infrastructure is necessary. I will not go into more details here, as we still consider our amendments, but we are supportive to the Commission's approach in general. But I would like to stress the importance of green infrastructure not becoming a convenient and empty buzzword that can be added here and there to make us sound progressive. It only works with visionary and careful urban planning, with broad cooperation between municipal departments and an active inclusion of citizens and civil society. Yesterday, we talked with the Candidate Up initiative here in Brussels, who could tell how the city of Brussels has bought into a concept of green infrastructure, but so far has failed in making any concerted effort to make it reality. As a consequence, there's little to no new infrastructure, gray or green, to tackle the enormous quantities of stormwater overflows in Brussels, more than 10 million cubic meters per year. This is clearly a problem. On the other hand, my own city of Copenhagen has largely managed to plan widely and coherently, and is on the track to massively greening the water infrastructure of the city with broad public accept and involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Auken. I fully agree on this, on some of these considerations. and we really look forward now in this, indeed, in view of some the deadline approaching also for the amendments, or to suggest elements of improvements to this report, to the report presented by the rapporteur. So we look forward indeed to further improve. It seems that some of the parts that you mentioned in Annex 5 and some elements in the plans are still there, and this is you know, we welcome this approach. So I think we only see opportunity to further improve. So that's nice. Thank you very much. I think I will come back to you after this the next intervention from the next speaker, which is well, I would like now to go to change a bit the point of view. So we move from the policymakers, from the lawmakers, to someone that works and deploy this technology in cities, in urban areas. So I'd like to go to Adrian Michel. Adrian is a member of the EU chapter of World Green Infrastructure Network, has been working with us on this agenda for a long time and providing his expertise in this area. So Adrian, I'd like to ask you, can you perhaps give you from a technical point of view, explain how the deployment of green infrastructure, in particular green roofs, can help restore the natural water cycle in urban area? Because I think this is also something important, not only for the issue of stormwater management, but also to deliver the many other benefits that this can give to citizens and to people living, especially in densely populated areas. Adrian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you from my side for the invitation, and good afternoon to all of you from my side. Yeah, in general, we need to get out from a linear city to a circular city regarding the water management and reduce somehow the water runoff in urban areas. I think we are clear, and we also heard it already in this afternoon. And rooftops are ideally the space to restore the natural water cycle in urban areas where water can evaporate, infiltrate, then just run off. And now I would like to show you this a little bit in more detail. I share my screen. Hopefully you can see.
Yes, we can see. Yes.
You see my slide? I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So if you look the drainage versus water retention of a specific roof, here we see a water rain event, so 20 millimeters per minute, 20 millimeters, sorry, and the duration of 120 minutes. So this rainfall fully somehow run off of the roof. When we now compare that to different solution you have on a rooftop, so first here you have a gravel ballasted roof, which is somehow retaining possibly up to 30%. If you now compare that to even an extensive green roof, which is the next level, you can retain up to 60% of the water, that it's not run off of the building and the side. And even if you go and increase somehow the level to go intensive roof, which can even capture up to 90%, which is quite incredible. But not only, let's say, the runoff on the roof is somehow a key element for these stormy weather events and so on. Green roofs has generally also some other benefits, which I would like to mention here. So it's really the time delay when the water is running off, that you do not have the big floods in the city centers. And this is an easy way of doing with the green roof system. Furthermore, what also Michael Sponner has mentioned is somehow pollution. You have then after a couple days in the piping system. So green roof is acting as a filter for the water event and preventing somehow with all the stuff which should not go into the piping. So it's an easy way of doing that. And last but not least is the downstreaming benefits. So it's even, you can cost optimize. You do not need to install, let's say, pipe storage systems to hold the water, to keep the water and restore it. It's already done on the roof itself with the green roof system. Yeah, so Luigi, this shortly from my end.
Thank you. Adrian, that was very, very interesting. Maybe Adrian, you can stop sharing the screen so I can. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Thank you. I think those numbers are very interesting. I think I'm particularly interested also in the indeed in the one of the last point, the use of these measures, preventive measures, green infrastructure to reduce some investments into the existing infrastructure, which is interesting. Is interesting also in another perspective, which is the one of the capacity of managing the rainwater there where it falls on roofs, reduces through detention, as you indicated in your slide, reduce the electricity consumption of urban wastewater treatment plant, which in many cases are connected to municipalities, and therefore this means freeing resources to develop other projects in urban areas. I think this is also a very interesting point. Thank you, Adrian. So now I'd like going on with our tour de table. I would like now to go to Johan. Johan, again, this is another different perspective because Johan has been working on some innovative measures, innovative projects. So my question, the first question for you, Johan, is why a green roof are interesting from an insurance perspective? I mean, this is obviously one of the first obvious question. And could you please tell us a little bit more about this work, these projects that you have been implemented in the Netherlands to support the uptake of green roofs in cities? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. So, in a general perspective, climate risk is a very high risk for an insurer. So we have to take all measures we can to adapt to the new climate. But if you look at it from a business perspective, we help our customers to prevent the damages. So we looked in our database and saw a lot of water damages start at a flat roof, so like a shed or an extension in your house, where usually you have the bitumen or asphalt tarmac covering, and after 15 to 20 years, it starts to crack, and then you get a leakage, and then you phone your insurer. And we discovered that the UV, the ultraviolet lighting from the sun, is the main reason that the roofs crack. So we try to innovate and to see how can we stop those things from happening. And one of the easiest things is to have a green roof up on your existing roof. So we started an experiment with the municipality in Tilburg, where we are at Interpolis, and the municipality was also very interested, but then from another perspective, because of the heat in the city. The center of the town and some other bits of Tilburg get very hot, and also a green roof has possible benefits for decreasing the temperature in your home. It gets cooler, like a national air conditioning. So, and well, we did an experiment. We invited our customers to buy a green roof from us, and it was very successful. And for us, it's all about preventing damage. But our customers, well, they want to learn about why we are doing this, because it's really a bit weird, insurers selling green roofs. But you usually buy it because they like it. It's nice. It's an extension to your garden. It gives you a good feeling because you're helping to save the climate, and all the other stuff about water retention, about helping well stay cool and storing water if this is a big rainfall. Well, that's all added benefits, but you just buy it because they like it. It's a very emotional product, so to say. So that's why we are doing it, and we are doing it for 3 years already. We offer the product to consumers and to companies very successfully. And you don't have to have an insurance with us, but if you have one, you get a discount on your insurance, on your home insurance. But that's a benefit for our customers. But everybody can join.
Thank you. Thank you, Johan. I think it's interesting. I think moving forward, we will have to look into this innovative also ways of promoting the deployment of certain technology. I think it's interesting the fact that indeed, for example, a client that has already an insurance, by reducing some of the risk through these technologies, for example, can have discounts on the insurance premium itself. I think it's one of that kind of innovation from a financial mechanism point of view that we should look at. Well, thank you very much for this first round of intervention. I'd like to go back to Mrs. Auken before she leaves. If you want to have some initial comments or reflections on what has been said by our colleagues.
No, I just think it's very interesting, and I'm listening, and it looks really promising how much you can do about this here. And of course, I'm thinking of my old house in Copenhagen. It's a 100 years old house. I'm not quite sure that the roof would be happy to get such, but I would be happy if it was possible. But I'll just tell you, when I leave here now, soon, then my advisor who's following it would be here in my seat and is also able to answer questions, what's going on in Parliament, just to make sure that you have the full cover. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Well, I have then now I'd like to go into the Q&A. I see that there are some questions coming in. I got one from Lucille, and the question is, in terms of circularity, do you foresee any risk, especially to the status of groundwaters, with the infiltration of runoff through blue-green solutions? Are there any specific things to pay attention to in this regard when planning green infrastructure? So I would like to perhaps address this question, maybe starting from you, Adrian, maybe from a technical point of view.
So what I can, from my side, from the industry at least, we are a roofing system provider, and what we look deeply into it at the moment is that we use roofing systems which do not somehow products and ingredients leach out and will then end up in the piping system and can cause us other problems, you know. So this is, we have a key element now on sustainability that we use, let's say, sustainable long-term proof products, as well that nothing in the ingredients is washed out from our roofing system. This is a key element also in the German-speaking market. This is a key things now. Also, bitumen is somehow in discussion. They will leach out at some point. So that's surely the future, to have the right product in place.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Is there anyone else that wants to address this problem of circularity among the participants? Otherwise, I go on. I got a question for Michelle Sponar. No, okay. So Michelle, my question to you is now going back to the directive. I would like to ask you a clarification, because the Commission proposes in the text indicates that green developments should be prioritized, which, as I said at the beginning, this is very welcome. I mean, this is together with also with the introduction of some definitions of runoff overflow. This is was really needed. So thank you very much for that. But then this indication, this prioritization, for this prioritization, the Commission says that a new infrastructure should be only envisaged where absolutely necessary. Now, in this, how do you see the role of green infrastructure like green roofs in relation to this new obligation for member states to establish plans, so integrated urban wastewater management plans at the local level? I mean, can you elaborate a little bit more on this, or clarify better on this part of the proposal?
Yes, thank you. I mean, the philosophy of the proposal is to favor green infrastructure. That's absolutely clear, but probably to first have a reflection on preventing clean water, rainwater, to go into pipes, which is a little bit ridiculous at the end. You know, we can take a lot of measures, and there are already a lot of measures taken in several cities to try to avoid that rainwater is diluted or diluting the dirty water, which complicates the collection and the treatment of this water. So I think think that we push the member states, and we will require the member states to establish integrated water quality and quantity management in their cities, with the aim to reduce the pollution, but with the aim also first to avoid that clean water is going into the pipe. When it's not possible, when they make all the efforts, and again, there was some examples already today, but there are plenty of examples for the parkings, for the tram lanes, where you don't need to have concrete. You can certainly make the soil permeable to water simply, so that should be in the future. We think the best way, the first thing to do, preventing water going into the pipe. The second thing is really to try to see whether the existing infrastructure cannot be optimized. We have seen that there are a lot of reservoirs, for instance, which were built in the cities, but in fact, these reservoirs were made mainly to avoid overloads and to avoid overflow in the cities, but they are not managed having in mind the quality of the water. So in fact, it's a little bit absurd. We are collecting this water to avoid overflows, but then retroceding this water, which is sometimes very dirty, into the environment. So we think that there is room with digitalization and with new techniques to better manage the quality and the quantity of the water, taking into account the existing infrastructure. And when absolutely needed, indeed, in last resort, we think that sometimes you need additional reservoir in concrete, and but you can have also green reservoir. But the meaning of the directive is really, we were thinking more green infrastructure as a way of preventing water going into the pipes. In summary, I think that said, it's difficult for the European Commission to be very prescriptive on that. It's a hierarchy of action that is in the directive. I would have dreamed, to have an objective which is monitorable and measurable, and to say, okay, all the cities must have, I don't know how many % of green infrastructure, but this is not realistic. As I was mentioning, the solution will be different from one city to another. So it's very difficult at European level to be more prescriptive than what we are in the current proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Michel. And I think this issue of flexibility somehow and differences within the European Union, I think it is important. And I think there is a question in the chat which I would like to
maybe I could add, Luigi.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Because we're talking a lot about the infrastructure which the government or the municipality is making more green, but also the initiative to reach out to the customers and to reach out to businesses to make their own roof green is also a big help to make the whole city more resilient. Because a lot of the roofs or the ground in the center of the city is owned by private persons. So the municipality can't do much there. So they have to reach out to the people living there to enthusiastically have them put a green roof on their roof. That's because that's why there are a lot of municipalities who offer grants to their people in the town to put up a green roof. So then the cost of putting up a roof is very low. So it's cheap to get a green roof. And just to answer the question Margaret asked about, is my roof okay? I have a very old house. One of the things we do, and it's much appreciated by clients, we inspect the roof before we put on the green roof. And if it's not okay, we don't put on the green roof. That's one of the major objections from people not to have a green roof. They're afraid they get leakage from the green roof. So that's what, of course, we want to prevent.
Yeah, thank you. Adrian, would you like to say something on this topic, or?
It's just fully support what Johan is saying. So we see also another trend of solar system are just after 10, 15 years, they want to install or green roof and the biosolar, the combination of it. And it's a key element that the roof needs to have its function as a waterproofing function. And if you just place the green roof on top and the roof is leaking, the building is leaking, and that causes more problems, more costs, and the people are afraid of it. And but it's the right way of doing. First, control the proper waterproofing function. If this is maybe end of life, it's better to replace it first, and then install the green roof, biosolar roof, whatever on top. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. I think we need to get it right. This is, I think, the message. We need to deploy this technology, but we need to deploy them well. I mean, using the state of the art. I see an hand from Mrs. Auken. Maybe colleagues from the office want to take the floor.
Yes, if it's okay, on behalf of Margrethe, just a quick comment. All right, so I just want to reiterate what Johan just said. So when Margrethe made the general comment on the comprehensive planning and the inclusive planning, right? It's really alluding to this fact as well, that cities are shared spaces. It's a labyrinth of public and private space, and it can't be solely a municipal or government project to green the infrastructure. It really has to be a collaborative effort to green the cities, and it has to be clear for homeowners and for shop owners and so forth that this is actually to their advantage. And if there are like public subsidy schemes or anything like that that can encourage it, it's even better, right? So just to really emphasize the integrated planning and the inclusion of both civil society and private persons. It's really important for this to really work.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'd like to thank you very much, first of all, for all of you to address that question. So it's very nice. Now I would like to pick another one from the chat from Antonin here. Would it make sense to set a more geographical approach for the installation of green roofs, in particular in areas which are most vulnerable to extreme weather events? I think this is an interesting one, which somehow Michelle also connects to the point of not being too prescriptive or to understand the differences and provide some degree of flexibility. I don't know. Shall we try to address this question with some comments? Do we need to take into consideration different climatic situations? I guess the context in Northern Europe is completely different from southern cities, southern European cities. I read somewhere that by the end of the week, we are expecting record temperature, high temperature in the south of Spain already for this season, incredibly high, like nearly 40 degrees.
Well, I think, that, again, each city is different, but it's not only about climate condition, it's also about the hydrogeographical, organization of the system of collection of water. And not only the collection, but also, the green space, the presence of the preservation of biodiversity, which goes together. I mean, we have other European legislation that were discussed this morning as well, on nature restoration target, including in the cities. All that should go in the same direction to prepare our cities for possible climate change impacts, including on water, but not only, so having more green in the city will definitely help for several aspects, including water. So having that said, I think that fixing target, I think we did our maximum in the directive, but now in some countries you have more precise targets, which takes into account the local situation. But as I said, it's not only climate, it's also whether they are mountainous region or flat cities, all that should be taken into account. That's why it's difficult at European level to define something very precise. But we are giving a framework and giving a hierarchy of action with the strong, willingness to push for more green solution in the cities. That's clear. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Anyone else who wants to step in on this?
Yeah, I would also like to add that we're talking about green roof and water, but there are other benefits also in cooling your house or cooling your environment or cooling your city. So we sell the most of our roofs in the summer because then it's hot in the Netherlands as well as in Spain now. And if the garden season starts, like in April during Easter, people are also thinking about getting a green roof. It's like more like getting plants for your garden. You get a green roof for your house. We are talking about the rationality about a green roof, but the emotional connection to a garden or a green roof from a consumer perspective is also very high. So I'm not that big a fan of taking it too locally or too geographically. We have to persuade our customers or persuade our public to green your roof or to green your city. It's a persuasion game.
Thank you, Johan. Okay, perhaps I go then. I move on. I don't see hands from other speakers on this point, but I'd like to move to cover another element, which is somehow, if we have a bit of a few minutes, to one of the costs or the cost effectiveness of this option. And I would like to go back to Adrian again from an industry perspective, from a technology point of view. Adrian, do you think that these technologies and this implementation of these measures, preventive measures, are a cost-effective option to improve stormwater management? We know sometimes when one of the biggest concerns is about indeed cost related to this agenda. So what's your view on this, and how do you think we can maximize the benefits of these technologies?
Yeah, sure. So green roofs in general, they have not just only this, let's say, stormwater management benefit, they also have other benefits which can have impact on costs. So let me explain that in more details on a real case. I think you can see my screen. So here I show you a case study from US, from Chicago, Simpson Query Medical Research Center. And
Adrian, I don't see the screen.
Oh, sorry. Maybe now you see it.
Now we can see it. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. So in the city center of Chicago here, they have certain somehow requirements on the stormwater management. And in this particular building here, they need to detain up to 300 cubic meters of water on the rooftop or somewhere else. So they find a solution in finally to have a combined green roof and blue roof, what you see here in the build-up, to retain the water on the roof deck itself. The space here itself from the roof, also the garden roof here, is 5,000 square meters. So it was a quite nice solution. So they can reduce somehow the cost in somehow cistern or water retaining on the ground floor. So this is somehow the solution they installed finally on this project. And if you go further now on the additional or the cost benefits, so it was also mentioned by Johan just some minutes ago, the increased life expectancy. So you do not need to replace the roof after 10, 15 years. It will last 20, 30, even 50 years and more, because it's protecting the roofing system. And because of thermal somehow protection, but UV protection, but even now these weather extremes, extreme climates, hailstorms, even here also in Malaysia, hailstorms are appearing there. So we need to get somehow resilient roofing system on top, and green roof is surely one system which is acting perfectly. Then on the cost side, if you look to this nice building here, so it's an additional usable roof space you can use. So it's not just, okay, you have your AC station on top or whatever, so you can additionally use that area as well, which can impact on cost. You can have a terrace, you can have a coffee room, and so on. And last but not least, I think it was also mentioned before, this reduced urban heat island effect. So if you touch a black surface, a black roofing membrane, it will go up to 80 degrees Celsius. And if you have a green roof, you can reduce it up to 50 degrees Celsius cooler than a traditional naked exposed roofing system. So this somehow will affect somehow the cooling of the building. In that case, in US, they are mainly cooled down. So you can reduce your energy bill because you need less energy cost to cool down the building, which the vegetated roof will help you in that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Adrian, very, very interesting. Any comments on these aspects of the costs?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
The Erasmus Hospital in Rotterdam also has a green roof, and they also use it to help their clients get better. Of the clients, the people who stay there, patients, they take them out to the roof, and there has been some studies that patients recovers quicker because they're in a greener environment than in a hospital environment just with white walls. But that's also one thing maybe to investigate what it does to the health situation of people. Can also be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's evidence on the impact of this green infrastructure on health, on mental health, and other health conditions. I think we have not some. We have decades of evidence in scientific journal in this respect. I think, Johan, thank you for bringing this to our attention. There is a question, I think, that is connected to this point in the Q&A, which is about the maintenance. So someone, Anna, is asking about should like to know about how the panelists' thoughts on ensuring cities have the funds, but beyond cities, I would say also owners, about the funds and support to manage the life cycle cost, maintenance cost of these devices. And I think after they've been installed. And I think the interesting point here is the maintenance point. So maybe if we can say something, I think Adrian, Johan have already mentioned the low duration of this installation, but maybe shall we say more about this, because I hear that this is a concern. So that I think if we can in a couple of minutes, if we can address that, would be useful. Who wants to take the floor first? Adrian, Johan, Michelle, you too. I mean, if you have.
At the end, it's always a challenge. So if you place a green roof, you need to invest all the time. It's also your car you have at home, possibly. You also need to wash it not on a daily basis, but you need to maintain them. Otherwise, it's not working. And this is the same also on the green roof. And you need to somehow maintain your drainage system, that it's not blocking, safety reason, and so on. It's surely additional cost, but you get the benefit out of it, finally. So what we hear now from several areas, what are the benefits? So maintenance, it's a must, and it's also a must that it will last longer. If you don't do the maintenance, it's also maybe after 20 years, you need to remove, you need to somehow install a new system, new green roof system, new waterproofing system. If you do the proper maintenance on a yearly basis, the roof will generally last longer, which is one clear benefit from my end.
Yeah. Thank you, Adrian. Johan, do you have something on this from experience?
From our experience, people ask two questions. Will my roof support the green roof, and can you inspect that? The other one is, what do I have to do regarding to maintenance? These are the blocking questions of getting a green roof. And well, we usually say it's about the same as your traditional roof. You have to check your roof as well as a consumer. And it's a bit of a gardening. So you have to, once a year, do some stuff, remove from weed or whatever, and see if the drainage is still okay. Well, that's it. It's not that much. And your lifetime expectancy from your roof is doubled or more. So it's a clever thing to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. I see another question from the participants. Adriana, to what extent will green and blue infrastructure policy and design integrate place-based biodiversity consideration? So I think this is something, the topic of biodiversity has been discussed in a session 2 this morning, but maybe here as well we can say a few words. I'm looking now at the participants who wants to take this one. Maybe from a policy perspective, Michelle, I mean, we can say, because you already said before somehow, but the Commission is looking at this now a little bit holistically. We have the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive that is definitely a way to push this agenda. We have the nature restoration law you mentioned, but there is also other things. This morning, Kirian Kath was talking about the energy performance of building directive, and there as well, there was some way of promoting the green infrastructure for adaptation and so on, and Bauhaus, biopollinators initiative. I think there's a few things. Maybe you can from a policy perspective, you can give some thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you. I with all modesty, I think that, when promoting biodiversity or energy efficiency or production of renewable, I think all that is covered by our magic chapeau, which is the Green Deal, and I think all that goes in the same direction at the end, and there are synergetic effects. There might be here and there some contradiction, but here in this case, I don't see a lot of contradiction. By the way, I would like, because all these policies are going in the same direction, I would say, so in that sense, we are a little bit lucky by promoting biodiversity. It's clear that we are promoting, green solution or green infrastructure or at the same pace, and at the same time, we are promoting, this solution to avoid that the rainwater is going to the system, which will indeed save additional energy. By the way, I would like to mention that this project on the review of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is much broader. Obviously, rainwater is one element. You have a lot of other things, including the obligation to treat a micropollutant in the future in the wastewater treatment plant. Also, a new system of producer responsibility. So, pharmaceutical and cosmetic industry will be solicited, to pay for the additional treatment of this micropollutant in the wastewater treatment. And I would like to mention also another thing in this project, which is related to energy precisely. We propose to simply make this sector energy neutral in the 15 coming years. So meaning that the energy which is used by the sector should be compensated by the energy which is produced by the sector, the renewable energy. And that's relatively new, and we hope that with that we will give a clear signal to the market that energy efficiency solution must be put in place, including those solutions using green infrastructure, for rainwater. So it's a kind of integrated approach, and which combine different angles and combine different policies. I can talk about circular economy as well, but I mean the main things are related to climate change, energy efficiency, but also biodiversity. And this connection are we have tried to make this connection in this project. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Michel. And I think this gives me also an opportunity to indeed to refer to the something that I briefly mentioned this morning as well in another session. That was the fact that if we look at the European Commission guidelines for energy efficiency, was guidelines for energy efficiency first principle. So this was like the DG Ener explaining how examples of energy efficiency first. And one of the first example was indeed green infrastructure, because of the capacity of this technology to indeed reduce the electricity consumption of plants to treat rainwater. And so I think Michel, this really fits with what you align with what you said. So the idea of making this sector climate neutral, it's fantastic to support the shift and to see the shift towards renewable energy. But I think it is also very interesting to look at how we can reduce the energy need and the energy consumption of these technologies. And once again, the green infrastructure here, they seems to come to to help us, because they provide this opportunity. So it's very, I invite you and all the colleagues, participants to look into these guidelines, because I always thought it was a great example of how we can, by deploying one technology, we can kind of address several crises, which is a bit the situation in which we are living now. I have now, I think, another question I see here from Johan. Johan, this is about this this approach that you had and the engagement of a new stakeholder. A new player, now insurance into this area. Do you think is this something that can be replicated also in other parts of Europe? Are you aware of other colleagues that are doing similar initiative?
I'm not really aware of other countries, but in the Netherlands, some other businesses are also selling green roofs. Our biggest supermarket is selling green roofs at the moment, just to make it widely available. And I would welcome everybody to do the same in other countries, because green infrastructure has a lot of benefits, not only for the customer, but for our infrastructure and even for the insurer. We have a business, of course, and for us, it's a favorable business case, no doubt about it. Yeah, because we save a lot of money on preventing damages.
Yeah.
So there's no, I don't know, maybe there is, but I've not seen insurers from like Germany or whatever. It's a bit, well, it's another angle, of course, and because we are very much investing in preventing damage. Maybe we're one of the first ones, and maybe more will follow. I will hope so.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Johan. Indeed, I think the Netherlands is in the Netherlands there are some very interesting things happening. Yesterday I was at the conference, the European Conference for Eurocities, and I heard about the green infrastructure plan of Rotterdam. Something amazing. I learned that there are also golden roof. So we have green, blue, and several colors up to the golden roof that is like a multi-purpose roof where you can where you have like the green part, where you have the blue part, where you have the biosolar elements, so the integration of thermal or photovoltaic panels. So it is really something very, very fascinating.
Rotterdam is very, very innovative. They're also using it for entertainment. So
yeah, indeed. They were showing roofs where that can host events, and so there is also the social element, which is also something very interesting now, especially in densely populated areas where you don't have green spaces. Perhaps using the billions, I mean, really of millions of square meters that are unused, they can provide some green spaces, green area for several purposes. Also to people with more socially disadvantaged. So I think there is also a social dimension there. But I think the Commission, once again here, the Commission with some initiative, Bauhaus, for example, has been looking into this and pioneering this work. And I think that now, if there is an economic case, is this becoming an economic case? This is also thanks to the fact that there is a regulatory framework and policy framework that is enabling, is providing also more certainty to the sector, and probably this will develop faster and faster in the next years. Okay, I think we have only now we are in the last 5 minutes of this very, very rich, interesting discussion. I'd like perhaps to go do a final tour de table with the final consideration. Maybe I mean I'll go in the order that I see on my screen. I start with you, Adrian. Would you like to just final thoughts, conclusion about this chat?
Yeah, it was great to hear from all of you the different sides. Some are from the Parliament side, some are also from an insurance perspective. How green roof can be attractive for the future, and what are the benefits behind? I think we are on the right track for the future, and we need to make it happen. It's nothing else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Thank you very much for being with us today, Johan.
Well, I would just like to mention that green roofs offer a lot of opportunities. There are several benefits from every angle. I would like to say, if you put a solar roof on a green roof, your production of energy goes up. So there are lots of advantages regarding green roofs. So everybody should get one.
Thank you very much, Johan. Michel, from a policy perspective.
Well, thank you. I mean, with the review of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, we hope that we will further promote this type of solution in the cities. I'm modest because we cannot impose that from the European side, but we really will do all our best to have a text which is the most implementable and enforceable possible. I think one of the beauty of this directive is that it's simple and clear. Member states know what they have to do. They have to collect and treat wastewater, and we have fixed, clear objective and deadline for the member states. For rainwater, it's a little bit more complex. So here we are really pushing the member states to take the optimal action, including, considering or implementing these green solutions. So now the challenge is to implement, and as it was mentioned before, the challenge is to make it happen now, and also for us. And I'm really, looking forward to the discussion in the Council and the Parliament with this view to really have a text which is implementable and really concretely push and promote this type of solution in the cities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michel, for being with us. And we fully agree with this view. You will receive our support. We very much support this the proposal of the Commission. And I'm sure that if we are able all together to land the changes, the revision, the proposing the directive, there will be also many more funds and opportunities following, because indeed we need to implement. And I have already been doing another piece of work in some cohesion policy, analyzing some operational program. I've started popping up here and there funds and pots of money to make cities more permeable, and so I think this is a language that is taking momentum. So I think the urban wastewater treatment directive in this respect can further give a push to this agenda. And then I'd like to Asger, maybe you want to say something from the office of Mrs. Auken?
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly, on behalf of Margrethe, thanks for this debate. I think it's great. She, as she said herself, finds this important and interesting. And as we said, it's great that the insurance companies are represented here, private companies, policymakers, because it is really a cross-cutting effort to make this happen. And just maybe one last consideration for the participants who are of course aware of this, but today we've talked primarily about roofs, but green infrastructure is an ecosystem of a lot of different things, a lot of different infrastructure elements. And whatever we do, there has been, I think, a good mention of it today. We always should think about co-benefits for public health, for biodiversity, and so forth. And if we do that, I think there's really potential to massively improve the quality of our lives and our interaction with the environment surrounding us. So thank you on behalf of Margrethe.
Thank you very much, and I fully agree. I mean, we had the focus on roof, but also during the morning in other sessions we've been discussing about corridors, about tree canopy. I mean, we had green infrastructure includes a broad range of technology to restore nature in our cities. So once again, I think we're at the end of our discussion. Once again, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for these excellent presentations. These sessions ends here. European Green Infrastructure Day goes on. We have the last sessions of the day starting at 3:15. That is titled "One Possible Future for European Cities: Green, Beautiful and Inclusive," and that will be a bit more holistic sessions with a very nice high-level group of speakers. Stay online. You can stay on this link and this connection. The next sessions will start in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm prompting you, in case you can hear me on your coffee breaks, to come back in about 30 seconds for the last of our sessions of today, session 4. And while we do that, I'll just remind the speakers to put yourself on mute until I ask you to unmute when I introduce you. Super. Okay, I'm going to get going because time is precious and this is a really interesting session. Welcome back to everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sian Hughes and I am the moderator for this afternoon. I'm really delighted to moderate this particular session because it's going to hopefully pull together some of the issues that we've discussed throughout today, that we've heard about from some of our speakers, and we're going to be a bit more holistic. So one of the last speakers, the gentleman representing the Member of Parliament, talked to us about the importance of focusing on co-benefits. And this is exactly what we're going to do. We've heard today that green solutions are great for buildings, for nature restoration, for water management, but they're also extremely valuable resources for improving health and well-being. And they also reduce inequalities, and we're going to touch on those issues today. And they're beautiful, and we all like things that are beautiful. So, and I'm sure that Herbert, one of our renowned speakers, can talk to us a lot about that as an architect. I'm joined by a really great and eminent group of panelists today. So in advance, I'd like to thank you for your time. We were going to start with Elena Mirivili, who's the Chief Heat Officer at the United Nations Habitat and Chief Resilience Officer at the City of Athens. She's not with us right now, so we'll move her to the end of the section. She was Chief Deputy Mayor, actually, for the Athens city for 5 years, and she worked with them on their climate resilience plan. So she will talk a little bit about that experience. Herbert Dreiseitl will be our first speaker. Now, many of you probably know him. He's a renowned and eminent urban designer, landscape architect and artist, and has worked across the globe and across many disciplines as well. So we'll be able to talk to us beyond roofs, which was one of the questions that came up from the interventions today a few times, actually. So Herbert will come to us after I introduce the other speakers. Anna Bruin, she works for ICLEI. Her colleague moderated a session for us this morning. ICLEI is the Association of Local Governments, and she leads the work there on sustainable resources, climate and resilience. And so we'll hear from her after Herbert. And then we will hand to Sergio Roca, who is Brazilian, currently residing in Barcelona. And he's executive director and founder of Instituto Cidade Jardim, which is one of the first Brazilian companies working in research and development and innovation around green technologies. And he's going to share some of their experiences, which they're now bringing to Europe, which is really exciting. And finally, but not least, Uwe Hartmann, who's managing director for Optigrün. Optigrün is a German company of origin, but works across Europe, providing green solutions and employs more than 100 people currently in Germany. So that's how it's going to go. We're going to have about 5 minutes each per speaker, as it was in the other sessions. I'm going to let the speakers all present before we go to the Q&A. As in the other sessions, please put your questions in the chat. We'll be having a look as you put them in, and then we'll open up for a half-an-hour Q&A session at the end. This session is recorded, live streamed on YouTube. And I think that's it, the practicality. So I'm absolutely delighted to hand over to Herbert, who's going to start this session. Thank you, Herbert.
All right, just let me try to get it going here. Okay. And I will start in a second. Okay. I hope it works. I hope you can see my slide. The first one, just a second. I am here.
I can't. I'm not sure anyone else can.
Okay, we are stuck. Sorry, it just did work. And
it did work in practice, everyone.
It did work in practice, and now it's stopped. Okay, I just go back again and try to open it again. And let me just try to get it work here. Very sorry. Okay.
If it doesn't work for you, maybe Samantha,
I hope you can see it now.
We can't know.
You can't see it? So
yeah. Oh, 1 second. I think Santa is sharing it for you, so you're going to have to ask.
Okay, so Santa, maybe we go very, very briefly and very quickly through the slides. And actually, what I would like to mention is that this session is, for me, extremely, has a lot of value, is very, very important. Maybe just continue. The question how we could create a possible future for European cities to make them more beautiful and more inclusive, more healthy for people, I think is really the most important topic we have to talk about. And actually, what I just do here, once again, I try to reopen, and hopefully you can see it now, because I have opened the wrong button, the wrong screen. Can you see it now? Just a question. Slides.
Yes, we can see a black and white slide with a bridge, correct?
Okay. I hope it works.
Yeah.
Well, the big problem we have everywhere is that we created the cities in the last 50 years basically on the automobile, on more and more density. We got rid of the green infrastructure. With climate change, we have a totally different pressure and regime to questions like big storm events, which are very punctual on one spot, cloudbursts, no rain on other parts. So we have either too much or too little. And a lot of the topics are really how to bring blue and green into European cities. That's a really big challenge, how to make that work. Nature-based solutions, we heard this in other sessions, are an extremely important part to have co-benefits, and green infrastructures and blue-green infrastructures are actually working on many different levels, on rooftops, on vertical greens, on swales, in streets. The big topic and challenge is how to actually convince the private sector, house owners, not just the city, that everyone is actually going for the Green Deal and actually works in the Bauhaus initiatives to come together. And the only point what we can do here is to focus on co-benefits. That means that one spot has multi-purpose, multifunctional use, and that can look totally different to different seasons. Like in cities, when we make a change, and I started 1980 on this topic, I was focusing really on spaces in cities. What can we do to collect every drop of rainwater, for example, to bring more green in, to filter it, to clean it, to recycle it even, and to have better understanding. Another topic I think in Europe we have to be proud, and we need to make it stronger, is involvement of stakeholders of the private and public sector, and to have a really good democratic way of talking to each other and coming up with a vision, which is a common vision for the city planning. That is an extremely important part in many cities. Berlin, I think we have also people from Berlin here, made lots of steps after the Berlin Wall came down. We had the opportunity to work with Renzo Piano on the Potsdamer Platz, where we have green roofs, where we have swales, where we have water features to hold the water back, to clean it, to release it slowly, and to have also a much better air-conditioned system and climate control in this part of the city. It can probably not be done everywhere, but this is just one option. And it also has lots of co-benefits. Industry could be done different. And actually what we also learned from large cities around the world is that there is not just one solution on one spot, that we have to have a network for a Green Deal where the entire city has to be included. And it's often the pocket parks, the smaller green solutions on rooftops, on bioswales, on trees, on different places, which make the big deal, which make the big difference. So it is, for example, in Singapore, where we have started with about 100 projects to take any opportunity, for example, reopening drainage systems, creating a kind of seamless transition between a park and a stormwater retention facility, opening it up, having the opportunity to work with the extremes, which we will have even more in the next 10, 20 years of the climate change issues. What can we do to hold water back, to avoid floodings? What can we do if there's no rain to still have humidity? Another co-benefit I think in this session is very important is about health, is about the question, how do kids grow up? What kind of understanding do we have from the environment, from nature? How can we bring better education and awareness? That gets together with movement, with health, with beauty, with psychological side effects like the biophilia effect, or also how to fight dementia and how to fight depression. That is strongly connected, and this is a big co-benefit if we make cities more green and more blue. Beside all that, what we can bring, and I go very back to just the last examples here. We have good examples in Europe. Here, for example, the old Nelling barracks, American barracks in Stuttgart, where we have lots of green roofs, lots of bioswales, lots of structures where we hold the well water back when it rains, and we drain it slowly out. The co-benefit is always that it has to be done together with good engineering, good city planning, good policy making in the city, where we need clear vision plans to come up with this kind of things. Europe, of course, has a lot of challenges like industrial zones. Even there, we can do a lot to change these industrial zones. This is one example in Offenbach, where we started to come with a totally new regeneration of a new city. Before it was an ugly industrial site, and we have good examples, I think, in Europe, where we have just to be faster, stronger, and have to bring it also on a main side. Green Deal is not a luxury thing. It is basically something we can do everywhere. I will skip all these last slides and just go to the final one. The art of integration is the big thing we need to do to bring different disciplines in decision process and political decisions together. We need to find a new kind of culture, how to work towards the Green Deal and towards a good city. And then finally, I like to say just this. Every city and every region needs a very strong forward-thinking vision plan. It needs good structural capacities, and we need to get the people on board. The normal people, any taxi driver has to know what the mission is and the vision is of a city. And we have to take any opportunities. And this, I like to say, finally, the challenges we have often of floodings or of too much drought situations, they are the windows of opportunities, because in politics, it is always working like this. A half a year, people are ready to make a change after they really felt the challenges. After that, we go back to business as usual. So we need to find also strategically the right way how to convince not only our stakeholders in industry, but also to get the normal people on the road, how to convince them to go this direction. And I think with this, I will leave it. I think all these points have to be discussed. And thank you so much that I can join this session. I'm really looking forward for this discussion. So in a nutshell, I think that's enough.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Herbert. And a great segue to Anna next, actually. Eleni's just joined us. Hi, Eleni. We're going to move you to the end, if that's okay. You'll be the last speaker of this session. Anna is representing ICLEI local government, and Herbert talked about integration, the need to bring normal people in, the involvement of many stakeholders. You'll need to unmute before I give you the floor. Can we hand over to you and get a view from you, from your organisation and from some of the cities and regions that you work with on how this is panning out there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think in order to understand why collaboration and multi-scale governance and inclusivity is important to create these green, more beautiful and inclusive cities that we all want to live in, we can look in two directions. We can look inwards and we can look outwards. So if we first look inwards at our own activities and contributions to the kind of current state of affairs, as well as the future projection of urban areas and nature, we see that urban populations are growing. Herbert just gave a great overview of some of the climate-related challenges. We have projections that 70% of the global population will live in urban areas by 2050. This morning we heard about the soil sealing and water and soil and air pollution that the Green City Accord is attempting to work on with cities. And all this growth creates stress on all systems, right? Housing, natural resources, basic services, jobs, everyone is implicated, especially land use. and these urban areas that we're attempting to manage are responsible for 75% of natural resource consumption, 60% of greenhouse gas emissions, 50% of the world's waste. You know, these are really large numbers that we've heard before. And at the same time, 50%, speaking about health, of EU citizens struggle with obesity and chronic health problems. So everybody's implicated in this. And these are really complex challenges. So the case for caring is clear, and the challenges are clearly complex. And so if we think about the potential of GDP and the potential of people, and then we bring nature into the conversation as well. You know, if we think of nature as it's responsible for 50% of GDP, and urban areas produce 80% of GDP. That's huge potential to connect urban and nature in a way that makes healthier, happier cities and spaces to live. But these solutions that we need for these complex problems can't come from one mind or one department, right? We have to engage with these challenges where they are and with the people who are impacted by them, but as well as with the people who understand them, who research them. So this includes local businesses, this includes vulnerable groups of people. As Herbert was saying, this includes the taxi driver that takes you from the airport to your conference when you visit somewhere, right? This includes researchers and educators, it includes interdepartmental collaboration within cities, and also relationships between cities. So this means looking at how local, regional, national, and EU level policies do or do not enable and encourage and incentivize actions that address these human-centered nature-positive responses that we have the opportunity to co-create. So if we look outward, then we can look a bit more at policy, and I'll just briefly mention a few points because I know we had a whole session on the nature restoration law this morning, and we were talking about urban greening plans and urban greening plan frameworks. But if we look at the EU biodiversity strategy for 2030, it calls for all cities with a population of over 20,000 to establish urban greening plans to mainstream urban greening and nature-based solutions across planning processes with co-creative methodologies. So this provides a bit of an opportunity for a framework of integrating across sectors and for bringing in kind of the unsuspecting stakeholders that maybe haven't been involved previously. But fundamentally, that means meaningful stakeholder engagement and a co-creation process. That means, you know, smart indicators. That means a monitoring process and good data, and that means business and investment models. And all of these is very broad, and you need a lot of different expertise at the table and experience to create this. So if we take one step further out, you know, mentioning the EU nature restoration law and its key contribution, we heard this morning from DG Environment, from Bettina, and also from Olli from Finland, that we need to not only think about parks, and as you open the session with, not just about green roofs, but we need to think about more integrated solutions and pathways, and whether it's pollinator highways, but we need to think more integrated and more creatively. We also heard that there's some ongoing negotiations related to the nature restoration law, and that really underlines and highlights the competing land use challenges that we're dealing with. So we all need to think about our role in this, and how what we're trying to do connects to these other political and environmental priorities: climate change and adapting to climate change, the city's mission, the health challenges that we're facing. We have to work across these sectors if we really want a future that includes no net loss of urban green space, that includes a reduction of health concerns. So ultimately, for this responsible management for long-term sustainability of projects and cities, it really rests on the contributions of multiple departments working together. In the Network Nature project that we work on, we collect and create resources for nature-based solutions, integration, including policy briefs, for example, on the nature restoration law, design briefs related to bringing NBS into blue and green infrastructure, and outcomes and case studies from cities, and research connecting NBS with health and well-being and justice and inclusivity. And kind of the common denominator really is this co-creation process and mainstreaming across political priorities. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Got lots of questions on co-creation a bit later on in the Q&A. Thank you very much, Anna. So we're going to now go over to Sergio. Sergio, tell us about the work that you do, the organization that you founded, and some of the projects that you've been working also to bring that experience to Europe.
Okay, thank you, Sian. I need to. I'm on the main stage right now, or okay, great. Well, I'm a founder of the Garden City Institute in Brazil, Instituto Cidade Jardim. I'm speaking now from Barcelona. We're just opening our subsidiary from the Brazilian company here. We're developing a new product here. I'll talk about a little right now. We're of course here to celebrate today the achievements of the green infrastructure in Europe, and in a sort of way, Europe is leading the movement in the world, and it's amazing to know that Germany is choosing to build almost 10% of all the flat roofs into green every year, and this is amazing. It's amazing too. The other nations and the continents following the same path. You can see France green roof market growing up too, Swiss, UK, the Nordic countries too. However, what about the other 90% of the market? If you take a basis of the flat roofs represent only 10% of the general roof market. It is a general worldwide statics. What about them? So I'm here to show you today two initiatives from Brazil that's trying to address some of these neglected markets by the green infrastructure movement. The first, I would like to share with you my screen. Just a second. The first is Green Roof Favela. Hold on, it is not. This is Green Roof Favela is a project founded by Luis Cassiano. He's from Rio de Janeiro. He lives in Favela do Arará, in the northern south part of the city, and he started to grow his own green roof over his asbestos roof tile. And after some time, he got connection with the University of the Rio de Janeiro, the Federal University, and bring some technology to develop a system that allows him to grow succulent tropical plants without soil in the rooftop of his own house. This is amazing because you cannot wonder how many of these favela houses has AC equipment turned on with all the without insulation. It's very hot. It's very unhealthy place to live. And Luis Cassiano changed it by his own hands, reducing the temperature inside his house about 17 degrees Celsius. It changes his life. And also he's coordinating a replication seminar in Rio. He invited 15 communities around, and he just finished to build the second green roof in Rio Favela, following the same system they're developing. So this is a social innovation project. I would like to put some light here because it's addressing the asbestos style retrofit. You know, this is the main construction technique you can look in any favela in the world. So this is a very important achievement. It's a different thing that I'd like to show you happening in Brazil that maybe can inspire some low-income situations, especially in Southern Europe too. The second initiative I would like to show you is a product. It's not a social initiative, but is a patent product we're developing almost 10 years ago. It's a hydroponic tile. It's a sandwich panel with a irrigation system within it. So it was developed to replace regular ceramic tiles. It has the same weight. So we have just to take the old tiles and replace with a green one. It's a soilless too hydroponic system that works in a closed loop, so it allows you to save some water and even to work with gray water treatment systems. well, it's suitable to grow from regular green roof sedums and other succulents without so much irrigation. But if you have a hydroponic system, you can grow rice, beans, lettuce, almost anything you like to grow in a soil. You can grow in a green roof system like this. We already showed the production with a lot of cash crops too. It can also work in a vertical way. It works either as a green roof or a vertical garden. And the main difference of this system from the other system you can see in the market, this sandwich panel don't need a waterproof membrane. It's a single piece product that you only have to screw on the structure of the roof, on the wood or the metal structure, and it's done. You have just to connect to the water and to the energy to make it run. So there's a new issue we are onboarding to this new system, green roof, because as we have a lot of moisture inside, we can develop a new system to produce electrical energy from the root of the plants. So in the next years, we'll be able to light some LED bulbs from the 1 square meter from a tile like this. So besides producing food, producing energy efficiency, it will be very soon produce a little bit of energy too. So this is what I would like to bring to you today, and that's it, people. Thank you so much.
Great example of innovation there, and I know that was touched upon this morning as well, the need for the solar panel producers to work with green roof solutions. Maybe we can come back to that in the Q&A. Uwe, I'd like to hand to you now. You've been in this business for quite a long time, as I understand it from our pre-speech. You'll talk about this, so I won't steal your thunder, but many of the co-benefits we've discussed in this session and previously you've been talking about for several years. Tell us about your organization, your company, and what they do, and your perspectives, please.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here, and I'm really happy to give a short speech. Before I start, of course, our company, OptiGreen, we are talking about green roofs mainly, but I fully can add to the thing that what Herbert Dreiseitl said in his speech. It's totally correct. We can't look only on one solution. We have to see the city as such and take all possible solutions which are there. So green roof is a great solution, but it's not the only one. So please keep this in mind. If you see my short presentation and our solutions, we are the experts for green roofs. We are the experts for stormwater management, but we can't talk about parks, about trees on playing ground and swales and things like that. But it's a combination which will definitely help our cities in the future. And so everybody should focus on that, what he's capable in and can do very good. And at the end of the day, it's the task of the engineers, of the public, to create a solution which is perfect for the local situation. So saying that, I just want to share my screen for a second. Hope you can see that. Yep. Okay, you can see the screen now. Okay, perfect. So just green roofs is not really a very new idea. There's a statement from a guy called Karl Rabnitz back in 1867. He was a Berlin construction guy, and he actually built the first green roof in Berlin, and he just said if the houses would be covered with green roofs, the heat of the cities would go away, basically. And this was back in 1867. OptiGreen is not that old. We were founded 51 years ago, so we are in the green roof business since 51 years now. The slides you see there, these are some samples from a brochure we did back in 1977. So all the topics we are talking today about heat island effects, about stormwater management, about CO2, about heat, about air pollution, we already talked about it back in 1977. Unfortunately, nobody was able to hear, or nobody wanted to hear it. But now the situation has changed a little bit. OptiGreen as a company, we are doing now last year we did about 9,000 projects plus. So we only count the big ones above 500 square meters. So this were about 9,000 projects we did. And over the years, I don't know how many square meters we covered with somehow green. Last year, it were over 5 million square meters. So if we add up our 51 years of history, I don't know how million square meters we covered. I just brought you some examples of some projects we did recently. This is one in Stuttgart, which has a green rooftop and the green facade, which is one of the prominent projects at the moment. Similar thing in Düsseldorf as well. This is the biggest green facade in Europe. Then this is a private green rooftop in a company, so they are using this space for the employees during the breaks and so on. This is a housing complex in the Netherlands where which are interconnected. We have extensive, we have intensive green roof. So this is a nice project, a quite big one, but it's not extraordinary in the sense, oh, this is brand new. This is just a combination what is possible. Here we have this is an office building as well of a German CO2 producer. It's Heidelberger Cement. So at least they have some green to compensate housing again. And as you can see, that this setup, it's not brand new. It's a couple of years old, but you can see all the balconies. They look into the green. The people can use those areas. Another housing project. This is combined with stormwater management. That means that all the stormwater which falls on this property is kept on the property. It's stored in cisterns. A combination between roof and underground storage. Next one is in Düsseldorf again. This is a good example how a city really can become green. At least the view in this direction of the city is quite green. If you look in the other direction, it looks differently. But it shows it's always a combination. We talked about that during the day, combination of green roof and solar. This is on a parking lot. Here, this is again a Dutch project. It's called Dakakker. It's in Rotterdam. It's one of those urban farming projects, but it's not used for production of vegetables in the first instance. It's more or less a community project in order to teach the people, to get the people on the roof, to get them into interaction, for socializing. There's a band playing on this picture. So these are things which can happen in cities. And if you look in the city, it's the best place to be in this part of the city. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show, just to give you some ideas, some examples, what is possible today. So it's not rocket science. It's just common sense. It's planning. It's the willingness to change something in our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Uwe. And finally to Eleni, you weren't here when I introduced you, but I did mention in that time, as well as all your very accolades, that you did spend some time as deputy mayor in Athens, and in that time you were involved, I'm sure, in a multi-stakeholder project to manage the green solutions there. So I'll hand over to you for your intervention, and then we'll go to the Q&A. And I encourage the participants to add their questions in the Q&A, because I will go there first. Thanks.
Thank you, Sian. Indeed, I was the deputy mayor for Athens, and I was the deputy mayor of urban nature, urban resilience, and climate adaptation. And the reason I put this enormous title for myself was so that people could understand that these things kind of go together. So yeah, and indeed, we did the Athens Resilience Strategy, which was very much bottom up. It started by asking people what are they worried about, and started creating the framework of creating a resilience strategy, basically identifying what the shocks and the stresses to the city are. And we did that along with many other cities like Rotterdam that was mentioned right before. And then we basically, while I was a deputy mayor, we dealt with co-designing and really doing a lot of stakeholder engagement around this hill of Athens that's called Lycabettus Hill, very beloved hill in Athens by everybody, which is kind of a large urban forest in a way. And we got more than 2,000 people involved in 3 universities and a lot of different sectors to try to figure out what the future of it should be and what should be prioritized. Along with tiny little pocket parks that we designed together with other people in neighborhoods. And all of this is to a large extent to bring the municipality closer to the people and the people closer to the municipality. Very crucial today, because we really need to figure out how to revive our democracies. And I really believe that people want to be involved in more and more in decision making and in the way that the city takes form around them. But I have been focusing, starting from back then to today, to the issue of heat and how our cities are becoming hotter and hotter, and they are becoming, to a large extent, death traps, especially for the poorer populations and the more marginalized and vulnerable socioeconomic communities. And we always think of people in the global South and in informal settlements, which of course are much more vulnerable. But we have to remember that even in cities like in Europe, in rich cities, there's always people that are poor people, and there's a lot of energy poverty, and there's a lot of people that don't have access and that have exposure, people with bad jobs that work under extremely hot conditions, people inside, or outside is the first thing that comes to mind, but also inside. And the problem is that with heat, we don't realize how dangerous it is. And this is like what is so important. And it's the most of all of the, we don't, like a lot of people still don't know that of all of the extreme weather phenomena that we deal with because of climate change, heat is the one that kills most people. And heat is also the one that we don't really see because it doesn't come with the drama of roofs flying and streets turned into rivers. So we hear about the impact of heat months later when we hear about the number of people that died. And it's a difficult thing to understand how dangerous heat is becoming. And of course, heat comes with a lot of drought and wildfires and all of the other things that are cascading kind of risks that come together with heat. So the most important, you already talked about all day today you've been talking about what is really the best medicine that we have right now. It's not the only one, and it cannot work all by itself, but it is one of the best things that we have in our hands, which is to bring nature much more intensely into cities, radically into cities. And this also very much has to do with water. So I think Herbert talked about water, and I really think that we have to figure out backup systems and circular economy. Like in Athens, we piloted a very successful mobile small unit that's the size of a container, and it's sewer mining, and it's worked really well for watering our nursery, the Athens municipality nursery. It's a great way of, we should really switch to these types of things when we are looking into watering our green parks and different parts of the green infrastructure, especially in cities that have problems with water, which is all cities, if I may say so, because we saw what happened in Europe this summer and it was insane. And what I'm trying to say is that we have to prepare, and this is what I want to just mention that we have to prepare. We have to prepare for heat that is much worse than what we've been dealing up to now. Like these summers that we had are the coolest summers that we are going to be facing. So we have to prepare, and water and green infrastructure and are the two things that we really, really have to depend on. And it does need, and we do need, and I'll finish with that because of course, in cities that are very densely built, like Athens, or let's say Paris, or Barcelona, I mean, Athens is in a much worse state than these other cities because we really don't have much public space. So we do have to go vertical, and also think of the roofs as extra space for greening. But also we have to have fights with cars and reclaim the public space. But which a lot of politicians are doing, and that's a difficult thing. But I want to finish with the fact that I think one of the most important things is to bring together at this point the people that deal with public health, people that deal with meteorology, and people that deal with city planning and city design and architects, and start really I think this is a really important triangle that we have to focus on. And it's not easy because they're really different languages, and we need kind of like translators. But this, I think, is a really crucial triangle that we have to think about. And also landscape architects have to be a very strong presence in all of these discussions. Thank you very much. I'll leave it here.
Thank you, Eleni. I'm going to pick up on that for the first question, and then we've got 3 questions already in the chat, 4, I think, which I'll go to first, if that's okay, rather than our pre-planned one. I'm going to challenge your triangle with a square, because I think there's one actor there that's perhaps missing, which is the Treasury, the Ministry of Economy. Where are the budgets going for these projects? Because, and I'm talking big budgets now, because often when we're thinking about, and I've worked in energy efficiency for a long time, the solutions to climate change, rightfully, we're trying to decarbonize our energy system. So we need to put in big investments into decarbonizing. But often the budgets for these kind of solutions, which are climate mitigation and actually can be very complementary, they are not being channeled with so much pace and so much with political power into these kinds of solutions. So how...
And there's no return on investment, right? So we have to kind of change the model of expectations with these types of projects. But I'm sorry, I didn't let you finish.
No, I was finished. That's a great answer. Please, if you want to expand.
Well, I mean, it has to be public. It has to be the public sector that really steps in really strongly, but it won't be enough. We really have to kind of bring public sector in it. And I think that maybe a solution is to really, as you said, couple them up, the mitigation, the energy solutions together with the green infrastructure, green blue infrastructure stuff, so that they complement each other, as we know, and they can actually create financial models that are more appealing. That's otherwise, I mean, it gets really difficult. We have to work more on. I wish I listened to this from the beginning of the day. So maybe you've already talked about this, but we have to figure out cost-benefit analysis of much more clear how we can explain and monetize the cost-benefit analysis of the different type of green infrastructure that we do. And still, it's not so simple to do that, to persuade the financial people and the mayors and the ministries for why, instead of doing a cement and concrete infrastructure, they should do a mixed infrastructure or a green blue infrastructure. It's really difficult still to make them shift, because to make them shift already it's a problem, because they know how to make money, right? All of the money is easily understood if it's done with the old type of material. So you really have to make a case and also build capacity so they know how to move. But the first thing we have to do is to figure out the cost-benefit analysis so that we make a very clear case for it.
Thank you. It's a good good recommendation. I'm not sure if anyone from the Commission is still here. Anna, or any of the other speakers, before we move on, I mean, there were two questions in the chat on finance, actually, from Antoine and from Norbert. So, gentlemen, we're answering your question here. Anyone else like to tackle that question around financing, not just on about how we, we convince our governments to put money into it, but also perhaps the issue around how do we finance residential projects? How do people perhaps who don't have the big budgets afford these kinds of solutions? I think Uwe has unmiked, and any other speaker, you're welcome to answer as well.
Yeah, of course, I only can talk about green roofs more or less, but the point is, if you have an industry like we do have it in Central of Europe, a green roof, extensive green roof is something like 25 euros per square meter. Installation plus material. So, and an intensive green roof is something like 100 euros per square meter. So if you now imagine you have a 5-story apartment complex, this equals to 5 euros per square meter of surface of the complex. Or if you start with 100 euros, you pay 20 euros per square meter of the apartment, and the apartment is sold at 7,000 euros a square meter. So the cost is really low compared to the benefits you get. Take just the benefit, you have a rooftop garden where you can sit outside in the sun and relax. I mean, how much money are you willing to pay for that? So what I want to make is if you plan it right from the beginning of a new building, existing building is always a little more complex, but for new buildings, cost can't be the big effect. And that's the point I would like to make, because it's always very often you can read, yeah, green roofs are so expensive. No, if the industry is there, if the cost benefits are there, if the installation companies are there, they know what to do, and therefore we get really decent prices. If you look over to the US, for example, at the moment you pay about 8 times the price you pay in Europe. There it's expensive, but here in the central of Europe, okay, south of Spain or south of Greece, it's definitely different. But for central of Europe, it's not it can't be a price issue nowadays.
Thank you, Uwe. I think Heather also wants to add. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just about the costs. I think there are good examples in Europe already. The city of Copenhagen made a cost analysis about their investments they have after floodings. For example, they were calculating the conventional installations they have to do after they had 3 times a 100-year flooding event in a row. And then they figured out if they invest now in better blue-green infrastructure, we call it cloudburst project in Copenhagen.
I know. It's a
we can reduce the costs for actually already within the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, it will be amortized. And then later it will be so much better, because if we don't invest now in better blue-green solutions, we will have enormous costs because it cannot be redone later on. And I think Eleni said it very clearly. We have now the opportunity for relatively low costs to invest and to do a lot of things, which maybe in 20 years, we don't have the opportunity anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very, very strong argument to be more active and more quick and more fast on a larger scale.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to when Eleni said, one of the things we can do is radically bring nature into our cities, and it makes me think that requires some other radical changes that go along with it, right? So it's one part looking at the cost benefit analysis and making it realistic and tangible, and okay, how do we do this right now today in the next 5-10 years? But then also, having these conversations and flipping the conversation on its head. What's the role of a nature positive economy? And one of the most downloaded reports on the EU right now is this nature positive economy report that was recently put out that talks about this, some of the economic activities related to nature-based solutions and blue and green infrastructure related to new jobs and innovations. We talked about the triangle, or if you add it to the square, health, right? You kind of explode the algorithms really quickly. So it's also on the one hand looking at things in a short time frame, and also then taking a bigger time frame and moving the needle there. In terms of a concrete example, also some cities are working with participatory budgeting, So the city of Budapest, for example, in like 23 of their districts, as well as the municipality itself, does some amount of participatory budgeting that then puts some of the power in the hands of the people to decide what projects get funded and where, and they can propose ideas. And the city of Budapest is one of the partners in setting up these NBS hubs that then seek to work across multi-scales of government. So with other cities within Hungary, with the national government and with the EU. And that's one of the things that Network Nature and ICLEI is currently working with the Commission and IUCN on, is setting up these hubs to do more of that multi-scale governance.
Great, thank you. And I'm just going to close off finance then, and we'll move on to another topic with Sergio. I'm also interested about how the Favelas project was financed, actually, and how you could kind of scale up that kind of financing in, Eleni said it really well, it's not just the global south, there are poor pockets across the global north as well, but how was that financed, that project?
Great, thank you, Sian. I'd like to hook with you comment about it's not only installing green roof is not only a problem about the costs of the system, but it's amazing how the question about the objections for installing green roofs are the same in favela as well, are in the fancy neighborhoods. They're always worried about the same question. There will be some moisture inside the house, there will be infiltration, there will be a lot of bugs, how the costs for maintenance, what kind of maintenance we're dealing with. So we're dealing with human beings, and the step, how to step forward is to capture the imagination of people and make them believe that is the right solution. So it passed through the education, and also it's about a will. The people that wants to contribute to against the climate change and bring more green to the houses, but there's people that simply don't want. And the project in Rio is funded with governmental money from the universities and also research facilities. But also we had tried to raise money through online participation. During the pandemics, we held some online courses in Brazil and redirect a percentage of the gains to Luis Cassiano, so he can is just an example how can we fund this. But of course, the budget is an issue. The budget for the middle class is different from the bottom of the pyramid, and so it goes on. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to close it on finance here, maybe because we don't have an enormous amount of time. And there's a question in the chat from David Brassfield. Thank you, David. It's Anna, actually. Do we have any examples of neighbourhood scale urban renewal projects with a blue-green focus? And actually, some of the speakers, you might be able to talk to this as well after Anna. This could help address the social equity issues of access to urban nature. Do you have any examples of that from the network?
Yeah, so Network Nature collects the outcomes and outputs from European funded projects related to NBS. And so the first project that comes to mind with this question is ProGreg, and I can share the link to this project in the chat as well. Many of the cities, so it's a living lab structure, where many of the cities have projects on the neighborhood scale specifically focused on urban regeneration. So one that comes to mind is the city of Dortmund in Germany, where they were the former coal mining, steel industry, and beer production center, and their economy has changed quite a bit, and they are quite strongly developing parks and food forests and aquaponic systems and pollinator corridors. And then another one in that project is also the city of Turin in Italy, where they've had to do quite a bit of transformation from an automotive industrial center, and now looking at, okay, what's their business innovation focus in the future. And so they have also neighborhood scale projects that they're looking at from the blue and green infrastructure I'm focused, and a lot of Project Reg deals with also food production and food security as well, but also green walls and roofs on the neighborhood scale.
Thank you. Any other speakers got examples? Eleni?
So I have a couple of examples. One of them is, you probably already talked about it. One of them is a greening roof project in Amsterdam, which also kind of collects water and creates a roof a green roof that is very much dependent also on high levels of water, so that and they have been, and it's on social housing buildings. So it's many kind of square meters of green roof, and they have been measuring how important it is to have these kind of cells underneath the green that collect the water for cooling, and how much higher this actually is. I think they also connected it to solar panels, so that they get better output from the solar panels too, because of the lowering of the temperatures. So it's actually a great project. The other thing is that recently we chose the best public space, the European Public Space Award. Barcelona City does this every year, and we actually graded 327 different already established public spaces in Europe from the last 2 years, and the award went to Utrecht, which has, by public demand, the city of Utrecht during the last 15 years has been renaturing a canal that used to be an enormous highway. So they got rid of the highway by public demand of the citizens of Utrecht, and recreated slowly the parts of the canal. And the last part of the canal is like the one that is has these new ideas of how we basically create a green space and a blue space where the interstices are really beautiful and very easy and natural, and not, with a kind of a sharp, and it's full of, beautiful places for people to go to. And I'll say the last thing too, which is and I'll be fast, we are in Athens doing this aqueduct, which is a Roman aqueduct that runs 24 kilometers underground, and we have like a big strategic plan that to get water from it, which is now going to the sewage, to support green spaces all around these 24 kilometers and in 8 different municipalities. So these are really kind of, I think, fun kind of and inspiring projects to think of what green and blue kind of infrastructure stuff.
Great, thank you. I think Herbert wanted to add, and I don't know, maybe Sergio, and then we're going to have to do a last tour de table.
Just to this topic, I mean, there are some really interesting examples where the innovation actually to blueprint infrastructure comes from the low-income groups. That happened actually, as it was mentioned already, in the Ruhr Valley in the 90s with the Eva Emscher Park projects. Some of the very low and lowest workers areas have been very, very innovative with coming up with better solutions. Others are like in New York City, vacant places which have now like a new school, and on the rooftop there is a city farm using an old building and transforming the old building. So I think we have lots of examples. It's not to make cities more blue-green and more resilient, and to go more to the program what Europe tries to drive, is not a thing for rich and luxurious levels of this population. It's actually for everyone.
Thank you. Sergio, just on that point, and then I'll conclude and ask you all the questions to finish.
Okay. I believe we can support this low-income communities by developing the same tools, the same set of tools we're developing and using now that leads to the increase of the current green roof market. We talk about insurance, we talk about financing, we talk about technology, we talk about social connection. And we have to develop the same set of tools, the same box of tools to the middle class too. If we can bring these technologies to them in a scale way, in the same for favelas and other poor parts in the world.
Thank you. Okay, so we've talked about inspiring projects from New York to Athens to Budapest to Turin to Utrecht, pioneering, showcasing blue and green solutions and multi-scale governments. We've talked about financing, funding models in this short period of time. I'm going to give you all a magic wand. If we want to make, we want to bring back nature to cities and stop it from being niche to norm. What would you do if you had a magic wand? And I'll start with maybe Anna, and then I'll go to Uwe. Anna, thank you.
If I had a magic wand, what would I do? Oh goodness, there's so many things that I would start with, right? But I think I would start by getting everybody together, bring everyone together, have a party, make a vision, and then start doing something. Start with a project, pick something, and do it.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to bring everyone together and have a great party and have a common vision, purpose. Uwe, you've got a magic wand too. What would you do?
I think the idea of Anna is great. I mean, we need to have the vision, and everybody then will join in and bring the ideas. And as Herbert said, and also the examples from Sergio, there are so many possibilities which we can do, but we need to have this vision that we want to make it green. And if you remember my first statement back from 1870 something, yeah, the vision is there, but now we need to bring it to everybody, and the taxi driver also needs to join into this vision.
With some urgency, perhaps. Okay, Eleni, yep. What would you do with your magic wand?
I would uncover all of the streams that are covered with cement.
Oh, that's a goodie. Okay. Come to Brussels. There's a lot of work to do here. Sergio.
Yes, I like to say that we need more leadership, because if we don't have leadership, we don't have strong and passionate leaders, nobody will follow. You know, the case of Luis Cassiano in Rio de Janeiro is very clear. He's a pioneer, and he's inspiring a lot of people. And everybody thinks he's crazy, but this is the kind of craziness we need. This kind of crazy we need now.
Crazy and courageous.
Yes,
and bold leadership. Thank you. And finally, Herbert, what would you do with your wand?
I would put them all in a bus or on bicycles and visit a beautiful place, which actually did already all these things, because to really figure out about co-benefits and added values, this is something we cannot only talk about. You have to live it. You have to feel it. I'm in a small city living here, and I have no car anymore. I gave it up 7 years ago. I only use my bike, and only if I need it, I rent something. I have a car sharing system. It's unbelievable for people who don't experience this. They think, how can you actually manage an office? How can you manage your work? And I say, it's totally perfect. It's even better, because a car would just make it difficult for me. And so changing also your habits, you can only do it if you trust that change is possible, and you have to experience it. So I would just love to take people to places where they really can live it and feel it. And I think change happens not only from top down, it happens from bottom up, with your experience, with your trust that life can also be better when it's different.
Super. So we're going to have a great party on bikes through underwater pathways with some really inspirational, passionate leaders. Thanks to all of you. How much passion have we had in this short speed date today? I wish we'd have had more time, because I think we could have touched upon inclusion, wellness, all the other issues that came up this morning. I'm now going to hand over to Manfred, the president, to close the day. Thank you very much. Speakers, you can stay here with your cameras on if you want, or you can switch them off. And Manfred, it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Come to here. Sound is okay? Yeah, okay. As in my function of president of the World Infrastructure Network, we try to connect since 2008 people together on the different levels of these green infrastructure activities. And today it was a great day with the third edition of our Green Infrastructure Day, starting with the energy performance and directive on the EU level shows that a lot of things are realized. It's up to date. The number of the front runner, what we heard from Jan Osenberg, about 25% PV cells on the Netherlands. We have 75% more to do. And there's a lot of creative things with the European Bauhaus and the green startups we heard in the first session. This is a great point. In the second session, I will say the nature restoration law, what is on the way now, shows that important. Of course, we focus firstly on the trees in cities, but where it is not possible, green roofs or green facades will be a good solution and bring a number of efficiencies. So the example from Bettina Döser, she talked about the Schumann Park in Brussels. It's one of these examples how to connect creative nature in different types of inner city solution. As well, the point of the water efficiency, it's important, the vegetation is important to cool down the cities, the evapotranspiration, cooling is important. And these water in cities brings more vegetation. That means the learning procedure. It's the first time what Oli Oyala talked about, the mistrust of messy biodiversity tried to become a change also on the roofs. Yeah, not only on cedar roofs, you have a high biodiversity style of roofs, and each roof can be very unique. And so make these green structures as biopollinators, highways, what Florian Becker says was for me very impressive. And we have a long time to contact to Jutta Paulus in the connection with blue-green infrastructure. And I see biodiversity and green roofs are important. It's a connection that is a key. At the end is the water, which will be captured in the systems. So the urban water treatments, our block 3 in these topics, show us a lot of things. That means water is an important, valuable resource for better cooling and for saving money. The tax reduction in many cities is a point which works well as an instrument. And rainwater as a resource is a point how we bring the system into work. And we saw a lot of products. Now the discussion, like from Zika, from Mr. Adrian Michel, the point that we have materials which are not polluting the follow-up sewer system. If you take the right materials, is very great. And at the end, in the session 4, we see examples of Herbert Dreiseitl and Uwe Hartmann and so on. The examples that we have windows of opportunities. That was the night word, what I heard, is great. Windows of opportunities goes to the poorest of the peoples. We are a very impressive network with Brazil and Sergio's example from Green Favelas. A lot of architects try to do this, the greenery, and including that we have a good instrument in the hand. And our instrument of green roofs and green facades are multiple goals for the European Green Deal. And I see we are in a good way to raise awareness of all these points. Way to green, an old term, it's here important. And I think it was a good day today to see this. At the end, as conclusion, yes, green infrastructure is an important way for the future. I hope in all these new directives, it will become to a good function, and we will help to the multi-benefits structures. And this was only today an online chance to hear some content for more face-to-face meeting, 27th to 29th of June. This will be our date to come. And I have to thank at this place for the organizer to this very professional day, a very nice looking into the right timeline. Also to thank all these about 100 participants on these meetings in between these numbers, I will highlight, for example, Laura Gatti and Martha Weber and Julian Bries and Jan Rappan. So a lot of interested people in the connection, and the networking will go on in Berlin on the conference at the end. And latest on the 4th European Green Infrastructure Day, we will have the chance to hear new things, new stories. And because this day in 12 months, we will have chances to face-to-face meetings, not only in Berlin, but also in Brussels or in Bratislava. So thank you. I think it was not too long what I said here, and it was a very great pleasure to join this nice event. Okay.